Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You're welcome to Kicking It with Brother Ed. It's Sunday, June 25th. It's 2 p.m. Man, we're so glad to see you all here with us today. We have an awesome guest for you to listen to. We're going to learn some things. You all are probably familiar with this case, Brown versus the Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas, 1954. It addressed the whole issue of school segregation. But what we didn't know, I know I sure didn't, and I'm older than most of you viewers, we did not know that there were several cases, including the one we're going to talk about today, that came before this one. And there's a young man we have who's our guest today, Nathaniel Briggs. He's an executive from the NAACP. He served with that organization for like 25 years. He served as president, religious affairs advisor, several other positions. And he's going to tell us because his family dealt with the case Briggs, which that's his last name for a reason, as you'll find out, Briggs versus Elliott out of South Carolina. And that came before this case in Topeka, Kansas. So you, ladies and gentlemen, are part of history because you are going to hear what Mr. Briggs has planned. And he's going to be interviewed by our very own special co-host, Nye Latte, my daughter. She's the bomb like that. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them on. Nye Latte, take it over. It's your world, Nate. Go with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dad, Brother Ed. I'm super excited to be here because, as you can see, we have Mr. Nathaniel Briggs, who I will refer to as Nate, thanks to his permission, the rest of the program. But I can't wait to talk about exactly what Dad introduced here, not just about the case, but everything related to your background and just all of it, so we can really get an understanding of who Mr. Nate Briggs is and how this particular case affected you. So with that in mind, tell us a little bit about your background, just some key points about, what should we know about Mr. Nathaniel Briggs before we get into all of the case details.
Born in Clarendon County, South Carolina, in the late 40s. Then my parents got involved with school, got involved with how education is being levered in schools, what we did not have in school. Mm-hmm. So this case out of Clarendon County became part of the Brown case. And almost 70 years later, here I sit, have lived this case from the beginning of Brown.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. Were your parents, you said they were heavily involved with what was happening in school. Were they a part of like some type of school administration, or were they just concerned parents?
In rural South Carolina, my father was served in World War II, came home, helped liberate Europe, and came back to South Carolina.
Wow. And
the kids that he knew, and my family, we knew we was in substandard schools. Okay. We didn't have the thing about schools in 1896, Plessy versus Ferguson, when it says separate but equal. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was the law, Supreme Court law, but these schools was never equal, especially in South Carolina. Mm. So because of that, we didn't, as a child, we didn't have indoor bathrooms. Wow. We had to bring wood in to heat the classrooms. Mm. We didn't have a gymnasium. We didn't have a science lab. Didn't have a library. Wow. So these schools are substandard, especially poor. Mm-hmm. And Clarendon County was the poorest county in South Carolina. Wow. That those black folks, we're going to keep them as close to slavery as possible. Wow. And they did that. Wow. So a change needed to be done. And there's some story I'll tell you. The folks who played a major part in my community to change it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, it's very interesting because what it sounds like you're saying is they just gave us a building to go to school in and teachers to teach. Do you feel like, as far as your own upbringing and as you were growing up in the South, how did you feel it personally impacted you as a child and now an adult looking back?
Well, once my parents, I only went to the 6th grade in South Carolina. Okay. Once my parents got fired from their job, we moved with this case pending. In the 50s, Thurgood Marshall came to South Carolina, was our attorney for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. Dr. Kenneth Clark came to our hometown to do the black and white dog test in our community to see how in simple word, how brainwashed we were from a little southern town. You got to look at my little town. When I was born there, we had one traffic light. 50 years later, we got 2 traffic lights. So small towns really changed.
Okay.
But the system that was geared to people who look like me is to keep you as near to slavery as possible. And they did this for hundreds of years. Something had to change.
Absolutely.
And some people that I'll mention to you, I don't know how you want me to talk with you, but
sure, go ahead.
Mr. Levi Pearson was a farmer who lives on a farm, he and his brother. They own a farm 8 miles from the school. Those kids had to walk to school.
8 miles?
8 miles. The county did not provide not one school bus for black children.
I don't even want to do 8 miles of exercise, Mr. Briggs.
Even in South Carolina, when it rained, you had to walk. When the winter, you walk. If you live 4 miles, you have to walk. The county did not provide a school bus, transportation. The word was, y'all use the N-word. I try not to do that. Did not pay enough taxes for us to buy a school bus for your children, for your end children. So to keep us poor, to keep us uneducated, in some schools in Clarendon County, they not even had high school.
What?
This in my lifetime. So you see a system had to change. At what cost? Yes, there's a price to pay in this country when you go up against a school board or system in the South. Who you are, little poor people, little farmers, little cotton farmers and little maids and gas station attendants to go up against this mighty, mighty school board.
Wow.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Nate, that's very interesting. Sad, but interesting nonetheless. My dad and you know, Nyla, you know this about your grandfather. He grew up in South Carolina, and he had to leave school in the 3rd grade. And I guess listening to you, he probably was too far away, and they used him to do more productive things, quote unquote. But the reason I bring that up is because I heard you say you only went to the 6th grade down there. Did you finish when you moved up to the Northeast, New York and New Jersey, or tell us about that?
Brother Ed, the real story is when my parents signed the second petition in town. They fired my father, they fired my mother, fired my godmother. I didn't know this lady would become my mother-in-law, fired folks from her family.
What was that petition about that you're talking about? They got fired because they signed a petition for what?
Yeah, the NAACP, Reverend Delanes, went to a South Carolina State Conference meeting, and they talked about schools, and he came back to our community, which is about 50 miles away, and started a petition to get access to school, the accessory the school has. And the first petition was 180 people on that petition. When they took it to the school board found out these signatures on the school board that, oh, she lives on my plantation, or they live on my plantation, or he borrowed money from the bank, or he borrowed feed money. And they began to go down that list to intimidate, to fire every school teachers on that list. So
just because they wanted to get the same services for the black children as the white children.
Yes, because we was small country town, didn't have one school bus for the black children. Then some, we own farms out in the country. We own farms away from the school. Right. But those kids had to walk to school, or their parents had to bring them to school in a wagon or a car. And those kids had to walk to school. Now, if you live close, let's say you live 4 miles away, well, you walk to school even in the cold. Then you walk by a white school but let's say 20 school buses in a parking lot, and you walk onto the black school.
Wow.
Wow.
The
And you did
intimidation.
you finish your education? I'm sorry, Nye.
No,
My
you're
bad.
fine. Go
Did
ahead.
you finish your education, or did you leave it at the 6th grade?
No. We with my father was fired. He moved to Miami in 1957.
Right.
And send money back to us in South Carolina because my mother couldn't get work. So there was 5 kids and my mother. And my father went to my father built a house in South Carolina, Summerton that is, for his bride and his 5 children. Then he in 57 couldn't get work. He tried farming. He took his cotton to the market. They didn't give fair market value for his crop because his name was Harry Briggs. He had to get some jobs he got painting, staining floors under a pseudonym name that he couldn't get work there.
So he couldn't even use his regular name.
Absolutely not.
Wow.
So he moved to Miami, Florida, lived in a rooming house. Once a month, I hear my dad. He'll call the funeral home because we didn't have a telephone. And when you haven't gotten the paycheck in, you're poor. You're poor in the struggle for justice. You're poor in the struggle to try to do the right thing, but not everybody writes you a check. But in 57, in 1960, my 2 older brothers graduated from high school. They came to New York City to live with our uncle. My sister, my brother, my mother jumped on a Greyhound bus, moved to Miami with my father.
Wow.
Okay.
But in the
So now
meantime,
your brother Harry Jr. was the subject of the case.
yes,
Right.
his
Now you'll
name.
get into that now. I'm gonna leave you guys to finish. I wanted to get that information in there.
Okay.
Go ahead, Nye. My bad.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I actually wanted you to finish your question because I was wondering if it was going to segue into my next one. So can you finish that question?
Sure. I was wondering if I know that Harry Briggs Jr., and for the sake of the viewers, Harry Briggs Jr., who's Nathaniel's older brother, was the topic of the court case against Elliot. And we also need to know who Elliot is. Why is that person named? Like in the case of the Topeka, Kansas case, it's Brown versus Board of Education. But in the
Elliot in
Briggs
South
case,
Carolina.
right, wait 1 second. 1 second. In the Briggs case, it's Briggs versus Elliot. And I want to know why Harry Briggs Jr. is the subject of that, number 1. And number 2, what does that case mean and what's the difference? Is that where you were going, Nye?
Yes. I just want to make sure because I'm like, I don't want to miss any of your good questions.
Well, go ahead. I'm going to leave it to you guys. Go ahead.
Okay. So yes, we want to know what was it that made your parents launch that specific case, the Briggs versus Elliot case? Again, we understand it was related to your brother, but tell us more. What was that case about?
Again, the first case, Levi Pearson versus school board. His case was thrown out of court because of technicality. He paid taxes in one area and his children went to another school. So they threw that out of court. Then NAACP came on board for another signatures that we needed. The second petition was 20. The NAACP saw people getting fired and people getting thrown off property and bank loans was called in. So they wanted 20 families here in this town that were going to withstand the scrutiny that will come their way.
Wow.
So my parents was those top name on those first name on the petition for this case. And I parenthetically, they all came from a church base, faith base, because they knew then, Thurgood Marshall, that these folks were going to withstand all the wrath that will come their way.
That's right. Wow.
So I got another follow-up question. So your parents were the first ones to sign the petition, but why is the case named after your brother Briggs? I want to get to that.
Because he was the one that was school age. This happened to do it for children. But that's why everybody thinks it's this Briggs, but the case is really named Harry Briggs Jr. versus Elliot.
So how did it come about that it was named after him? That's what I want to drive at. It was named after your brother.
Yes, it is. If you look at the court dockets, the record reflect Harry Briggs Jr. and others. And
Oh,
others
it says
were,
and others.
and others, yeah. I think
I guess he was your parents were the first ones. Okay, that makes sense. I'm educated on that. Okay, all right.
For
Go
sure.
ahead.
So what would you say are the major differences between your case, your family's case, and the Brown versus Board of Education case?
Two things that ours came out of the Deep South. The other case, Virginia, Delaware, Washington, D.C., Topeka, Kansas.
Okay.
Ours, because I think we was going through more hell in South Carolina than any other 5 cases that told our circumstances was worse than the other 5 cases. And here's what I truly believe. When this case came and NAACP brought the case for Eastern District Court, and then it got referred to the Supreme Court, the governor was a retired Supreme Court justice. This case, thinking about striking down segregation, it cannot and it will not come out of the Deep South. So y'all can figure it out, y'all Supreme Court justice, y'all can figure out a way to make Briggs, since Briggs' case is already at the court, makes him draw back, re-argue the case, and that give us time to move the case out of South Carolina into Topeka, Kansas.
Okay.
In Topeka, Kansas, the high school is already integrated. It was the elementary grade school that was not integrated. South Carolina, nothing was integrated. So the power of the South had it that white Democrats or white Southerners control the Democratic Party. That was the power base, not Republicans. So they had enough power to say that Alabama, Mississippi, all of them going to reject Brown. But if we get it out of South Carolina, you can win it out in Kansas with a Kansas name up front. Then we can bring it back to South Carolina and we can slowly integrate the schools from that point. But it will not, and did not come out of the Deep South. The South didn't have power.
It sounds like it. Wow. So by bringing public attention to Briggs versus Elliott, what do you intend to accomplish? What do you think will come out of doing this in particular?
For me, 69, going on 70 years later, the inequity for me in my little hometown, that in 2000, I'm assuming 2, 3, or 4, or maybe 2, Topeka, Kansas got $7 million to redo their school, to redo the historical argument. Almost 65 years later, my town haven't gotten a dime. So you can have Brown here, but for me, equality is here.
Right.
If we brought the first case and it got to Kansas, and our case was the worst, but we lost a value on the work that we've done in the South. Our value had been misaligned. History books talks about Brown, and I've read a lot of the history books, and Briggs don't even come up. It's just sad. I've high on the prize. Briggs don't come up. There's professors on television right now talking about history. Never even been to the seat of this Brown case. Never even been to my hometown. And I've been out here long enough to hear folks on television that wrote a lot of books on Brown. Never been to Clarendon County, South Carolina, the seat of this case. Shameful on them.
Yes.
But then we grow up only knowing about Brown. And that doesn't sit well for me. I speak for the folks those are original 20 petitioners. All of them are dead. They're all dry bones. Can I speak for dry bones? Yes, I can.
Yes, you can.
That South Carolina deserves its place in history. It's valid points that even the case out of Virginia and Delaware and Washington D.C. need to be lifted up, equal to Brown, not just Brown. So these books that reflect Brown, I'm not trying to overturn Brown, but I must speak for the dry bones because nobody else is speaking for them. So that's part I want to compliment. If they spent $7 million back then, now today that $7 million got to be worth $10 million. Can they spend some of that in my hometown? Can you spend some of that in Virginia to lift us up? That it's just not a case of Brown. All of them talk about the the inadequacy of schools for black children. But the world only know Brown. I mean, television shows, professors talking on television just refer to Brown. It's just so
You
sad.
know, I'm sorry for interrupting, Nate. Two things. One, I appreciate you coming on and like educating us because I had no idea. And the second thing is in separate but equal, which I had a photo of the DVD I was trying to post, but that didn't work out technologically speaking. But we'll get it. We're gonna get it. I mean, we're gonna get all the photos because even your parents got a gold medal, and maybe we could talk about that in a moment, even though we're running out of time. But in separate but equal, there is. I don't know if you noticed the old series with Sidney Poitier playing Thurgood Marshall. There is a reference. It's quick to Briggs versus Elliott. Did you know that?
There is a what now?
There's a reference in separate but equal to Briggs versus Elliott.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, the film. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was good. I never heard of it outside of that. And even then, when I watched that movie years ago,
if you watch
that got lost.
Beginning of the movie where Sidney Poitier came into South Carolina, he came in to South Carolina to be our attorney. So when I told folks that Thurgood Marshall was our attorney, they said, no, he argued Brown, but he argued Briggs. Judge Carter, he argued Brown out Topeka. But when they
we didn't know that. This is good stuff. Yeah, we didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Oliver Hill argued Davis versus Prince Edward County in Virginia. So these elite attorneys that was taught by at Howard Law School by Mr. Hamilton created these cadres of attorneys that went out in the 40s and 50s to strike down separate but equal. Right. But those are part of the story, Ed, that the public just don't know because they only know about Brown. And sometimes historians saying, well, you know, we're not going to tell the whole story. But our cases was terrible. And I'll tell you this, it was only one high school in the state of Delaware.
Wow.
One. Wow. So you can see the existence of miseducating people of color and expect us to keep up behind 200 years worth of struggle.
Wow.
And I'm saying this case is even bigger than the name just Brown. So I'm saying if they're going to keep doing Brown, then Briggs and I need to and should have some more notoriety than what it has given.
Well, you're getting it. You're out there, and I saw you on. I saw your interview on Channel 19 out of Orangeburg, South Carolina, a couple of weeks ago. So you're getting the word out, and we encourage you to keep that going. Listen, back to Nye because we're running out of time, so I'm going to get off and shut my mouth.
Well, actually, I was going to say you can continue right from there because I think with the information that I've gathered, like you, I had no clue. We've always, like you said, heard of Brown versus the Board of Education. So this was very interesting. I'm very honored to have interviewed you, but you were going to say something.
Yeah. Can I get a minute?
Yes.
Out of this struggle from South Carolina, a few things have happened to the folks who brought the case forward and the folks who paid an offer price. In 2004, the Congressional Gold Medal was given to my parents, Harry Briggs, Mr. Levi Pearson, and Reverend Joseph Delane for the work we have done. That's the highest medal that can be afforded by the Congress for any of folks on this earth. George Washington got that medal. Dr. King got that medal. There's a lot of folks who got the Congressional Gold Medal, but in their death, I was accepted at the Capitol for that. South Carolina State College, the HBCU school, the only school in this nation, black or white, to have given these folks, Briggs, Delane, Pearson, an honorary doctor's degree posthumously.
Wow.
So something wrong with our education system. The biggest bang since the Emancipation Proclamation. Education, everybody, is the key. But the key's out there, but we don't really open that door to see how this was gotten. But for them, South Carolina State, to do that, and no other black college done that. It's just saddened to me that we still ain't got the party education that they deserve. So they all these awards were given to them in death. But I'm just speaking for them from those dry bones in my community in South Carolina. But
that is excellent. And listen, as a Christian man, which I know you are, and I'm a Christian man myself, and my daughter's Christian, we believe that you will see them again one day, and that they will be very grateful for what you're doing down here on this earth. We appreciate you, Nate, and thank you for coming on. We are out of time. I have to turn it over to my daughter, to Nai. And thank you again, Nate, for coming. And we're going to get back. Let me take over, and then I'm going to give it back to them, and we'll take it from there. Okay? So let me get myself up on the screen because I haven't been doing that. I'm multitasking over here. So let's see. There we go. I'm a little unkempt here. But I wanted to tell you guys that this case is so important. We have to pay attention to these things. You know, there's an old saying that, and I think it came from someone, a Jewish author, who said, those who forget their history are doomed to repeat it. And I don't know about you, but I absolutely positively do not want to repeat some areas and instances, if you want, of our history as Blacks in America. So I encourage you to learn more about this case. Google it, go online. Briggs versus Elliott out of Clarendon County, South Carolina. Check it out. It's very, very important. And we were educated today. Like I said, I know I was. So I'm going to turn it back over to Nai, and she's going to close it out. As always, we send you love. We ask you to please give us thumbs up, to please subscribe to our channel if you're on YouTube. And please tell your friends. People need to know this. We don't have to repeat our history. Let's get to know it. My daughter will confirm that I've always taught all of my children that a smart man learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. Be that wise one. I made the mistakes. I didn't follow this history. You be the wise one and learn from it and spread the word. That's it for me. Brother Ed is out. I am going to turn this back over to Nai.
Awesome. Okay, I see myself now. So thank you all so much for joining today. We hope that you enjoyed this program. I personally was blessed by it because I, like many of us, did not even know this story. So thank you so much for joining. And we hope that you will join us somewhere else too, because you are all invited to receive the most awesome blessing every Sunday in July, provided by our very own host, Brother Ed Steed. He's going to share what the Lord has given him in this most important God-inspired series that he entitles, What Do These Times in Which You and I Live Actually Mean? And what does the Bible say we should be doing right now? This is truly a one-of-a-kind series you absolutely don't want to miss. You get to meet us in person. I am going to actually travel all the way from Virginia to New Jersey to be there. It's a 4-part series. The first program is July 2nd. Start marking your calendars. Get your pens and your papers out. Whatever you need to do, put it in your phone as a reminder. The first program is going to start on July 2nd, and it is all about the purpose of the U.S. according to God's word and what this means for you and for me. The second one is the next week, the following Sunday, July 9th. We've heard before all about 666, the mark of the beast. But Brother Ed is going to break it down in a never before heard of, as far as I'm concerned, sermon about what it means. And it's going to become crystal clear to you what you should be doing in the position you should be in. As we talk about that, make no mistake, we're getting closer to the end of the times. And I think there's a lot of people that are not using the knowledge that God gives us to make the right decisions. And Brother Ed's going to get us in check. All right. So then we have July 16th. All about why the Jews and who are they anyway? We've heard about the Jews in the Bible. We're hearing about it, even hearing about them today, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to talk about that as well. And finally, on July 23rd, okay, so what do we do now? That is the topic of his sermon. I'm telling you, you're going to be blessed. We are going to learn everything, for the most part, we need to know about how to prepare for what's to come. So be there or be missed. And as much as we love you, we don't want to miss you. Be there. We're excited and we can't wait to see you and meet some of you as well. So I'm going to turn it back to Brother Ed. We're all done. I hope you enjoyed today's program. I know I did. Have a blessed one, everybody.
God bless you, family. We got to be out. We're over time. We'll see you next time. And hope you come to witness the sermon stuff that we're doing. You're going to be blessed. Amen.